It's a sad time when someone we know and love passes away. All the tears and heartbreaks are sometimes impossible to bear. What exactly happens to the body after a person's passing may come as a surprise to some of us, as after the death of a loved one, life inevitably goes on. What happens next? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel, or do we become one with the universe? Regardless of our beliefs on life after death, one thing we can be ultimately sure about is what takes place to our physical bodies at the time of our end. Join us as we put on our surgical gloves and take a deep look into what happens and takes place to our lifeless bodies shortly after we leave this world. Before we get into the video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Puzzled for more puzzling and mind-boggling content. Now, usually when some things naturally take place, you would expect it to take a while and slowly come into action. But when it comes to the death of a person, the aftermath takes place right away. Body decomposition begins several minutes after death, with a process known as autolysis, or in simpler terms, self-digestion. Soon after the heart stops beating, our cells become deprived of oxygen, and therefore acidity increases within the cells as the toxic chemical reactions begin to build up inside them. Our enzymes start to digest the cell membranes and then leak out as the cells break down. This is an unpleasant process, and it usually begins in the liver, which of course is abundant in enzymes, and then later in the brain, which has high water content. Damaged blood cells begin their travels of spilling out of broken vessels and eventually settle in the capillaries and small veins, causing discoloring to the skin. Then the state most of us are familiar with, rigor mortis, takes place. Regarded as the stiffness of death, this is when the body stiffens up starting in the eyelids, jaw, and neck muscles, before working its way to the rest of the limbs. Rigor mortis is caused by the lack of filamentous proteins known as actin and myosin. These proteins help muscle cells contract and relax by sliding along each other. After death, the muscle cells are depleted of their energy source, and the protein filaments ultimately become locked in place. This causes the muscles to become rigid and causes the joints to lock and stiffen. We also experience changes to our immune system. The immune system stops working soon after we die, which leaves microbes and bacteria to spread throughout the body freely. This usually starts in our gut, at the junction between the small and large intestines. The bacteria in our gut begins to digest the intestines and the surrounding tissues. After that, the microbes invade the capillaries of the digestive system and lymph nodes, spreading first to the liver and spleen, then into the heart and brain. With no oxygen in our bodies to bind to, hemoglobin in our blood binds to sulfur instead of the oxygen, causing our arteries and veins to be filled with a greenish-black substance. This is what gives the flesh a green bruised appearance that scientists label as marbling. Chemical reactions involved in the decay process will be sped up as the temperature increases. With that being said, a body can remain fresh for longer in the cooler winter months or within colder climates. There are also other factors that can delay decomposition, including where the body gets buried or stored. The presence of insecticides in the body will delay the arrival of insects, slowing the decay, although it won't hold them off indefinitely. Two species of insects that are associated with the decomposition of our bodies are blowflies and flesh flies. Our corpses give off a foul, sickly sweet smell, made up of compounds that changes as the decomposition cycle progresses. Blowflies detect the smell using specialized receptors on their antennae, then later land on the deceased bodies and lay their eggs in orifices and open wounds. Each fly can deposit around 250 eggs that hatch within 24 hours, which gives a rise to small first-stage maggots. These will feed on the rotting flesh and then ultimately molt into larger maggots, which feed for several hours. After feeding some more, the maggots wriggle away from the body, later pupating and transform into adult flies. The cycle then repeats until there is nothing left of our corpses for the flies to feed on. The final step in the process of decomposition is skeletonization. This is, of course, when there is absolutely nothing left of our body tissues. While buried in soil, wind, Rain, erosion, and abrasion will take over, and the bones are washed, and the remaining tissue is wiped away over the following months and years. That was surely not the easiest video to make. I hope it didn't disgust you as much, but I guess that's life in the end. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. Help support us by smashing that like button and subscribing for more of the best puzzling content like this. Have a good day and see you soon.